The crash landing had been rougher than Zara Moonwhisper anticipated. Her small reconnaissance pod now lay buried beneath a pile of autumn leaves in what appeared to be someone's backyard garden. Steam rose from the damaged hull as she carefully extracted herself from the wreckage, her iridescent purple skin shimmering in the strange yellow light of this planet's sun. Zara had been studying Earth from orbit for weeks as part of her botanical research mission. The Verdanians were peaceful plant cultivators who communicated through bioluminescent patterns on their skin, and their technology was entirely organic living ships, breathing walls and gardens that responded to emotional frequencies. Nothing had prepared her for the harsh mechanical sounds that now assaulted her sensitive hearing. A thunderous roar made her dive behind a cluster of what the humans called rose bush. The sound seemed to come from the large structure nearby, a dwelling of some sort, constructed from dead materials like wood and brick. How could any species live in such lifeless environments? Curiosity overcoming caution, Zara crept toward a glowing rectangular opening in the structure's side. Through the transparent barrier, she could see into a room filled with mysterious white and silver boxes, each humming with different mechanical frequencies. Her translator implant worked overtime, picking up fragments of the dominant species. Language from a flickering screen in the corner. The dwelling appeared empty, but as a xenobotanist, Zara had learned that abandoned places often revealed the most about a species' true nature. She pressed her hand against the transparent barrier and gasped as it slid upward with a sharp screech. These humans had such violent technology inside. The assault on her senses intensified. Everything was angular, cold, and artificially lit. Her bare feet touched the smooth floor, sending shivers up her spine. On Verdania, floors were soft moss that cushioned each step and glowed gently to guide the way. This surface was hostile, unforgiving. A large white box dominated one corner, humming ominously. Zara approached it cautiously, her bioluminescent patches flickering nervous patterns of yellow and green. Strange symbols covered its face, and behind a dark window she could see a spinning disk inside. What manner of creature lived within this mechanical prison? Her reflection appeared in the box's surface, startling her. The image showed her wide violet eyes, flowing silver hair, and the intricate vine-like patterns that decorated her purple skin. She looked so alien in this sterile environment. Suddenly, the dwelling's front entrance slammed shut. Heavy footsteps echoed through the structure, accompanied by a low humming sound. Someone was approaching. Zara's survival instincts kicked in. She needed to hide, but where? Her eyes fell on the white box with its dark interior space. It looked just large enough. Without thinking, she grabbed the handle and pulled. The door opened with a mechanical click, revealing the mysterious spinning disk and metal interior. It seemed inactive, almost dormant. Perhaps it was safe. Zara squeezed inside, pulling the door closed behind her just as the footsteps entered the room. Through the dark window, she watched a tall figure move about the space, muttering in the human language. Her translator caught fragments. Long day. Need food. Quick dinner. The figure approached her hiding place. Zara held her breath, trying to suppress the panicked bioluminescent flashing that would surely give her away. The human pressed several buttons on the box's surface, and suddenly Zara's world exploded into chaos. A deafening hum filled the cramped space, growing louder by the second. The disk beneath her feet began spinning rapidly, and invisible forces seemed to grab at her body, making her skin tingle strangely. The walls started vibrating, and a strange warmth began building around her. This was no hiding place. It was a weapon. Marcus Rodriguez had always prided himself on running the quietest kitchen in downtown Portland. His small restaurant, Tierra Verde, specialized in fusion cuisine that celebrated both his Mexican heritage and his love for fresh local ingredients. But today, something was definitely wrong in his prep kitchen. It started with the missing vegetables. Marcus had sworn he'd left a crate of organic tomatoes by the back door, but when he arrived at 5 a.m. to begin prep work, they were gone. Then his assistant chef mentioned hearing strange sounds coming from the storage room, soft musical tones that didn't match any of their equipment. Now, as Marcus stood in his kitchen at 6 a.m., grinding fresh spices for his signature mole sauce, he heard it again. A gentle, almost singing sound that seemed to respond to the whir of his industrial blender. He shut off the machine, and the mysterious melody stopped too. "Hello?" Marcus called out, his voice echoing through the empty restaurant. "Is someone there?" The singing started again, but this time it sounded ... frightened. Marcus followed the sound toward the storage room, past towers of stainless steel prep tables and the massive walk-in refrigerator. The singing grew louder as he approached, interspersed with what sounded like whimpering. Someone was definitely hiding back there. He found her crouched behind a stack of flour sacks, and Marcus nearly dropped his flashlight in shock. The woman, if she was a woman, had skin that shifted between deep purple and bright silver, creating patterns that moved like living tattoos across her face and arms. Her hair looked like spun moonlight, and her eyes were the color of amethysts. "Por favor," Marcus whispered, instinctively switching to Spanish before catching himself. "Please, I won't hurt you." The being Zara, her translator managed to convey, looked up at him with those incredible violet eyes. Her skin was flashing rapid patterns of orange and red, which somehow Marcus understood meant she was terrified. "The grinding machine," she said, her voice like wind chimes. "It screams when it devours. And the spinning blades. They're so violent." Marcus looked back toward his kitchen, trying to see it through alien eyes. His beloved blender, which he used daily to create smooth sauces and purees, must seem like a torture device to someone from a peaceful world. "It's not a weapon," Marcus said gently, crouching down to her level. "It's for cooking, for making food." Zara's bioluminescent patterns shifted to confused blues and greens. But the terrible noise, the metal teeth ... Marcus smiled, remembering his own grandmother's fear of the first electric mixer his family had bought. "Would you like me to show you? Maybe if you understand what it does, it won't seem so scary." Leading her carefully back to the kitchen, Marcus gathered ingredients for a simple salsa verde: tomatillos, cilantro, jalapagos, and lime. Zara hung back, watching nervously as he loaded the blender. "On my world," she explained, "food preparation is gentle. Plants offer their fruits willingly, and we shape them with thought and touch. No violence is needed." "This isn't violence either," Marcus said. "Watch." He started the blender on its lowest setting. Zara yelped and dove behind the prep counter, her skin flashing bright yellow with terror. The sound that had always seemed normal to Marcus now struck him as harsh and mechanical. "It's okay," he called over the noise. "Look what it's doing." Slowly, Zara peered over the counter. Inside the blender, the ingredients were dancing together, creating a beautiful green mixture that grew smoother by the second. Her patterns shifted to curious purples and soft blues. Marcus shut off the blender and dipped a spoon into the fresh salsa. "Here," he said, offering it to her. "This is what the violent machine created." Zara accepted the spoon cautiously, sniffing the mixture before taking a tiny taste. Her eyes widened, and her skin erupted in brilliant patterns of gold and pink joy. Marcus realized, "It's harmonious," she breved. "All the flavors united as one. Your machine doesn't destroy it. Creates unity." Marcus grinned, feeling a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the kitchen's heat. Exactly. Sometimes things that seem scary are just different ways of creating beauty. As the morning sun streamed through the kitchen windows, Zara's Skin settled into gentle patterns of contentment, and Marcus knew his quiet little restaurant would never be quite the same. Emma Chun had always been the responsible one in her college apartment building. While her neighbors threw parties and left messes in the communal spaces, Emma quietly cleaned up after them, believing that small acts of kindness made the world better. But the sounds coming from the basement laundry room at 2 a.m. were testing even her patient nature. It wasn't just the usual hum of washing machines or the clatter of students doing late-night laundry. This was something else, a series of musical tones that seemed almost like ... communication. Emma grabbed her phone's flashlight and headed downstairs in her pajamas and fuzzy slippers. The basement was dimly lit by flickering, fluorescent bulbs, casting strange shadows between the rows of washers and dryers. But the sounds weren't coming from the laundry machines. They seemed to originate from the small kitchen area where residents occasionally washed dishes that were too large for their dorm room sinks. Emma rounded the corner and froze. A figure was pressed against the wall beside the industrial dishwasher, which was mid-cycle and making its usual racket of churning water and clacking dishes. But this wasn't a student. The person's skin seemed to shift and shimmer in patterns of distressed reds and oranges, and their hair caught the fluorescent light like captured starlight. "Excuse me," Emma called softly, not wanting to startle whoever. This was, "Are you okay?" The figure spun around, revealing a face that was unmistakably not human. Violet eyes wide with terror, skin flashing rapid patterns of yellow and white. It was clearly a female, though unlike any species Emma had ever imagined. "The torture chamber," the being gasped, her voice carrying an otherworldly musical quality. "It holds prisoners and torments them with scalding floods and violent shaking. I can hear their cries of anguish." Emma looked at the dishwasher, which was indeed making quite a lot of noise as it worked through its wash cycle. Steam escaped from the door seals, and the mechanical sounds of spraying water and shifting dishes created a symphony of kitchen chaos. "Oh, honey, no," Emma said, instinctively switching to the gentle tone she used with frightened animals. "It's not hurting anyone. It's just cleaning dishes." The alien who introduced herself through a series of bioluminescent patterns that Emma's phone somehow translated as Zara shook her head vigorously. But the screaming steam, the violent waters, and the prisoners trapped inside can't escape. Emma's heart went out to this terrified being. She remembered her own childhood fear of the garbage disposal, certain it was a monster waiting to devour. Unwary fingers. "Would it help if I showed you what's really inside?" Zara's skin patterns shifted to uncertain blues and greens. She nodded hesitantly. Emma waited for the cycle to complete, then carefully opened the dishwasher door. Steam billowed out, making Zara leap backward with a cry of alarm, her skin flashing bright warning colors. "It's just hot water vapor," Emma explained patiently. "Like clouds, but warm. Look." She pulled out the bottom rack, revealing rows of perfectly clean plates, bowls, and glasses, all sparkling under the kitchen lights. Zara crept closer, her patterns shifting to curious purples as she examined the dishes. "They're unharmed," Zara whispered in wonder. "And so clean they shine like crystal formations from my homeworld." "Exactly," Emma smiled. "The machine uses hot water and soap to wash away dirt and germs. It's actually very gentle, much gentler than scrubbing by hand." Zara reached out tentatively to touch one of the warm, clean plates. Her bioluminescent patterns exploded into brilliant golds and silvers pure amazement. "On Verdania, we grow cleaning pods that dissolve dirt with natural enzymes. But this is like having an entire cleaning ecosystem contained in one device." Emma loaded a few of her own dishes into the empty spots and showed Zara how to add detergent. When she started a new cycle, Zara didn't flinch. Instead, she listened thoughtfully to the sounds of rushing water and mechanical precision. "It's not violence," Zara murmured, her skin settling into peaceful patterns of soft blue and green. "It's purposeful, like a river system, but controlled and directed." As they sat together on the basement floor, waiting for the cycle to complete, Emma realized she'd just made the most extraordinary friend of her life. Benjamin Benny Walker had always been an early bird. His 5 a.m. jogs through downtown were sacred ritual of the empty streets, the quiet sunrise, the gradual awakening of the city around him. But this morning, as he passed Mocha Dreams Coffee Shop, he heard something that stopped him mid-stride. Someone was crying. Not the usual crying of stressed college students or heartbroken romantics, but something different. Musical, almost like singing, but filled with genuine terror. Benny followed the sound around to the shop's side alley, where he found the most extraordinary sight of his life. A woman sat huddled behind the coffee shop's dumpster, but she wasn't entirely human. Her skin shifted through patterns of deep purples and silvers, creating moving designs that seemed to pulse with her emotions. Her hair looked like liquid moonlight, and when she looked up at his approach, her eyes were the color of violets. "Hey there," Benny said softly, crouching down in his running gear. "You okay?" The being's skin flashed rapid patterns of orange and red fear. His mind somehow understood. When she spoke, her voice carried musical undertones that made his chest resonate. "The steam demon," she whispered, pointing toward the coffee shop's window where an espresso machine was visible. "It roars and hisses and breathes scalding clouds. And the grinding, the terrible grinding of bones." Benny looked where she pointed and saw Paolo, the shop owner, preparing for the morning rush. The espresso machine was indeed hissing as it heated up, and the coffee grinder was processing beans with its characteristic whirring sound. "That's just coffee equipment," Benny said gently. "They're making coffee for people to drink." The alien who introduced herself through shimmering skin patterns as Zara shook her head frantically. "On my world, we have stories of the steam. Wraiths, creatures that breathe burning mist and devour everything in their path. That machine, ... it's just like the legends." Benny's heart went out to this frightened being. As a volunteer at the animal shelter, he'd learned patience with scared creatures. "What if I showed you that it's not dangerous? Would that help?" Zara's bioluminescent patterns shifted to uncertain blues, but she nodded. Benny knocked on the coffee shop's back door until Paolo appeared, flour dusting his apron from preparing morning pastries. After a quick, whispered explanation that involved a lot of hand gestures and promises to buy extra coffee for a month, Paolo agreed to let them in. "The demon awaits," Zara whispered as they entered, staying close behind Benny. The espresso machine dominated one corner of the shop, a gleaming chrome beast with multiple arms and gauges. As Paolo began his morning routine, it came alive with hisses, clicks, and bursts of steam. Zara's skin flashed bright yellow with terror as she dove behind the counter. "Watch what it actually does," Benny called over the noise. "Don't just listen, watch." Slowly, Zara peered over the counter. Paolo was grinding coffee beans, and the rich, earthy aroma filled the shop. Her patterns shifted to curious purples as she inhaled the scent. "It's aromatic," she admitted, "like the dream flowers of home." Next, Paolo demonstrated the espresso machine, explaining each step. Hot water under pressure flowed through the ground coffee, creating a rich, dark liquid that filled small cups. The steam wand, which had terrified Zara, gently heated milk into creamy foam. "The steam isn't a weapon," Benny explained. "It's just hot water vapor, used to warm the milk." Paolo handed Zara a perfectly crafted cappuccino dark espresso topped with velvety foam art in the shape of a heart. Her skin patterns exploded into brilliant golds and pinks as she tasted it. It's euphoric, she breathed, her bioluminescent patches settling into content patterns of soft blue and silver. The bitter and sweet in perfect harmony, warm like sunlight on petals. As the shop filled with morning customers, Zara watched in fascination. As the demon machine served person after person, creating liquid happiness in countless cups. Her fear transformed into wonder, and her skin glowed with peaceful satisfaction. Not all powerful sounds mean danger, she murmured to Benny as they sat sharing a blueberry muffin. Sometimes they mean creation. Rose Patterson had seen many things in her 87 years, but the shimmering purple figure sitting on her front porch at dawn was definitely a first. The being looked exhausted, her otherworldly skin flickering in dim patterns of blue and gray like a dying constellation. "Well now," Rose said, settling her arthritic bones into the porch chair beside her unexpected visitor. "You look like you've had quite an adventure, dear." The alien who communicated her name as Zara through gentle light patterns looked up with eyes the color of amethysts. "I've learned so much about your kind," she said, her musical voice tired but amazed. "Your food preparation devices aren't weapons at all. They're tools of creation." Rose smiled, remembering her own grandmother's suspicion of the first electric icebox that came to their farm. Learning about new things can be frightening. But you're here now, and you look hungry. Would you like some breakfast? In Rose's cozy kitchen, Zara's eyes immediately went to the toaster sitting on the counter. Unlike the larger appliances she'd encountered, this one seemed almost quaint chrome and compact, with a simple lever and dial. "Another machine?" Zara asked, her patterns shifting to cautious yellows. "The gentlest one of all," Rose assured her, pulling out a loaf of her homemade bread. "This little fellow just makes toast." Rose sliced the bread carefully, her weathered hands steady despite their age. She explained each step as she worked, treating Zara like the curious student she was rather than a frightened refugee. "See, you put the bread in these slots," Rose demonstrated, lowering 2 pieces into the toaster. "Then you set how dark you want it." She adjusted the dial to medium. "And press this lever." The lever clicked into place with a satisfying sound. Inside the toaster, heating elements began to glow a warm orange like tiny suns. Zara leaned closer, fascinated by the gentle radiance. "It's not violent," she observed, her skin patterns shifting to interested purples. "It's nurturing, like morning sunlight on growing plants." "Exactly, dear," Rose said, beginning to prepare her special butter real cream butter mixed with honey from her neighbor's beehives and just a touch of cinnamon. As they waited, Rose told Zara about her late husband Harold, who had been terrified of the microwave when they first got one in 1978. Thought it would give him radiation poisoning. She chuckled. But eventually he loved it for heating his coffee. The toaster's elements cycled on and off, creating gentle waves of warmth. Zara watched, mesmerized, as the bread slowly transformed from pale to golden brown. Her bioluminescent patterns had settled into peaceful blues and soft greens contentment. When the toast popped up with a cheerful ding, Zara gasped in delight. The sound wasn't harsh or mechanical like the other appliances. It was almost musical. A clear note that announced completion rather than demanding attention. Rose spread her special butter on the warm toast, and the kitchen filled with the scents of honey, cinnamon, and perfectly toasted bread. She handed a piece to Zara, whose first bite triggered an explosion of golden patterns across her skin. "It's perfect," Zara whispered, tears forming in her violet eyes. "Simple, gentle, and nourishing. This is what I thought Earth food preparation would be like, creating comfort, not chaos." Rose patted Zara's hand gently. "Every species has to learn, dear. Your people will too, if they survived. And now you can teach them that our violent machines are really just different ways of showing care. As the morning sun streamed through Rose's kitchen window, Zara's skin settled into steady patterns of warm gold and silver hope mixed with determination. She had learned that human technology, despite its harsh sounds and mechanical nature, was driven by the same impulse as Verdanian biocultivation, a desire to nurture and provide. "Thank you," Zara said, finishing her toast, "for showing me that differences don't have to mean danger." Rose smiled, already planning to teach her young friend about the waffle iron next week. After all, there was still so much wonder left to discover.